All right, Avery, we have completed another international. Is this the third one that we've casted together now?
I don't know. I don't keep track of that shit.
Okay, yes, it was. Singapore was our first one, right?
What was the TI before Singapore? Romania?
Yeah, that was TI-10.
Yeah. So third. Wow. Too long. Three too much.
You haven't retired yet. Shocking.
I'm going to retire from casting, go back to playing so I can retire from playing again.
Yeah. Just pull a Seb. I mean, he did that. He did that, you know?
Yeah.
It's never too late.
It worked out for him, right?
It did in some ways. It didn't in others. We casted TI. We last did this podcast on Thursday before the final 3 days of TI. So we had a top 6 available. Did TI go the way that you expected it to? You said last episode that there was a team that you really didn't want to win, didn't want to say they would win. And did that team end up winning? Was it Liquid or was it Gaimin Gladiators?
I mean, I think saying they didn't want to win, that's a harsh statement, you know. No, I'm not trying to be mean or shit on people's dreams and achievement or whatever, but
okay.
Everybody has their own fan favorite, right? You're rooting for that team. That's all I meant by it. But did they win? Yes. I felt like Liquid was going to win that tournament. I think pretty much halfway through, I think we both had a discussion off screen about how if they don't win this TI, like they're just permanently fucked.
Yeah, they're
because this is the. I feel like every TI, the meta starts to fit a certain team halfway through, and that team doesn't always win, but I feel like it's pretty likely they win. And part of that meta fitting is like they also figure it out before other people, and they figure out more of it. So it's not just like a luck. It's not like, oh, the meta fit that team, so they won. But you just start to get an understanding that, okay, this team is in the zone for this patch, and they know more about it. They're better at it. They execute it better. They're really hard to draft against. I feel like that was Liquid halfway through the event. They didn't drop a single game the entire playoffs, so like nobody really got close to beating them. I'm surprised the finals was that one-sided. I'm also surprised Gaimin gave them Fury on 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
Because I understand there's a lot of first phase draft issues, but I think in a BO5, like when you lose to a hero that dominates the tempo that much in a first game, it's pretty tempting to ban it and let something else through. Like, I don't know. It surprises me they gave it 3 times. Not that that's an incorrect decision, but I feel like there would have been a lot of pressure, at least by game 3, to ban that hero because it just plays so freaking fast. Like, if you're playing well and you're in the zone with that hero, it's really hard to beat. On paper, it's very beatable because it's like kind of a garbage hero in some ways, honestly. But when you're playing really well, it becomes the most broken hero in Dota. And I feel like that's how that hero's always been. And obviously, Liquid was playing super well. So I think that was a very scary hero to give them, even if they had good answers. You know, they have things like the Underlord and like stopping power, but none of it matters if the team is just playing better than you are. So,
okay,
yeah.
So looking at those, I guess we're just going straight into the technical stuff right away. Looking at those adjustments in
we don't have to.
the draft, ban-wise, why did Nature's Prophet go through every single time? Like,
we can talk about the technical stuff later, Austin. We can talk about what everybody wants to know, which is how many predictions did I get right in the end? Because I feel like it was at least over 3/4. I feel like I got 3/4 of the pool correct.
Yeah, but you didn't get the winner, so that was the
no.
big
But
part.
I mean, okay, who could fucking predict like this team just bombs out and Yatoro retires? I mean, like, come on, man, come on. I cursed the shit out of them, but like. Nobody saw that coming. But if you switch Liquid for Spirit, I feel like I got almost everything pretty well.
Yeah, you had Tundra in your top 4, right? You had
Tundra top 4.
I believe you had Falcons in that spot as well, right?
Yep.
So
I had Falcons, Tundra, GG in the 3 of the top 4.
You got the bottom 4 correct.
Liquid for Spirit.
You got the 3 out of the 4 top correct.
I got Cloud9 in his top 6.
You got Cloud9 in top 6.
I did. Okay. Who was the other top 6?
The other one was Extreme. Yeah.
Where did I put them?
I would not be surprised if you put them
I either put them top 6 or top 8.
7th, 8th. Yeah, one or the other.
I think I put them top 6 though, because I was debating them top 4.
I'm gonna guess you did not have Aurora top 8.
No.
I'm gonna guess you placed them 9 through 12.
Yeah, but nobody cares about the middle teams. I mean, it's like.
All right, so the you did get all these predictions, a lot of them right. Do you feel like that combined with the fact that there were a lot of 2-0s, do you feel like this TI was relatively predictable?
I actually feel like this one was way more predictable than a lot of previous ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think if we had gone through a bracket, I feel like you could have gotten 3/4 of like a playoff bracket series prediction.
Sure.
Somewhere around there, right? Between 50 and 90 or whatever, which I think is pretty rare. I just think a lot of the teams, like the matchups were pretty clear. Maybe some of the games like, Tundra, I think some of the Tundra matches were less predictable because like either they're going to overperform and beat you or they flop. Like the Falcons series probably could have gone either way, right? Maybe their upper bracket games could have gone either way, but
yeah, I mean they got stomped by Gaimin Gladiators really hard, which was a really bad showing, I think, from them. I mean, one of those games was 24 minutes.
Yeah, and they also ended up losing to them again in the lower bracket final.
Yep.
Which was an interesting series to say the least. So I feel like they were the most unpredictable team, but I feel like most of the other series, outside of if you were like a huge XG believer, but I feel like if you're watching XG this event, that team is just so. I still stand by these Chinese teams just don't know how to draft. I don't understand it. Like, not that they don't know how to draft, they're just so stubborn. They refuse to draft like European teams, and it's just a disadvantage. Like, what the fuck is this game 1 draft by XG in that, what series was it? Versus Falcons or whatever? Who'd they play?
They got knocked out by Tundra, if you're talking about lower bracket.
So they have Faceless Void Shadow Fiend Lycan cores, like, and they picked Shadow Fiend into mid sniper. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, how is this the meta? Like, by the end of this tournament, you're looking at this meta. It's like super fast fighting carries, or a tempo offlaners, and a bunch of like gimmick mid heroes that it kind of abuse the lane to give you snowball advantage. How the fuck is Faceless Void Shadow Fiend Lycan like in this at all? It's just so bizarre. It like you can kind of see the idea, and if you're the best team in the tournament, you can win with it because you can win with anything. It's not like it's some garbage draft, but like, man, I would not be playing Faceless Void at this tournament. I'll tell you that much. Like, unless I'm playing it like mid or something, because like how the fuck was this lineup ever gonna beat like Liquid, for example, right? Who's gonna play like some Fury and Visage? You have no chance. You're gonna drop your fucking Chronosphere or your time zone. Even if you 5-man wipe them, what happens? You lose the game. So like, I just don't understand how they're that off the meta, or they're that stubborn about refusing to play it. So I don't know. I feel like they're just at a disadvantage. Like, even if they're playing better, and even in some of these games they are playing better at certain points in it, it's like the old philosophy of, they have to win like 10 team fights to win the game. The other team has to win 1. It's just so hard. I feel like all these Chinese teams still draft like this. I don't understand it. It's been like 2.5 years of them losing lanes and losing in 20 minutes to every European team. And you still have just like the same shit happening. I genuinely don't understand it. I don't know what the fuck is happening.
I feel like another team that they actually played against each other, Aurora was another team that I think was very stubborn. Maybe a little less so on the draft, but their play style was just so slow. Like, they would pick some meta heroes, like they would pick Carry Wind Ranger, and it would just be the slowest slog of a game. And Aurora versus Extreme, they ended up playing against each other. And, and they actually made Extreme look like a relatively fast team when they obviously were not. So,
like, see, that's the thing with Aurora. I don't think how they play is good. I don't think they liked how they played relative to the meta. They obviously didn't have a lot of confidence or faith, you could tell. But, like, I actually understand it because they're just going for a play style thing. They're like, we're going to try and win late game, even if it's not that good. That's, like, how we want to play. Maybe our players are better at it.
We're going to draft Spectre.
Yeah, I get it, I get it. But, like, what the fuck is XG doing? Like, they obviously can do other stuff. We've seen them play games where they, like, run a team over in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
it's not like Ame can't.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, they can do it. Like the series they played against Spirit, I think that was their best series. They played really fast that series. Had like 2 20-minute wins in games like 2 and 3, right?
Yep.
And they were crisp. It was like, damn, okay, this team understands. And then next series it's like Faceless Void Shadow Fiend. It's just like, how do you get here? It doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm genuinely don't understand. Like, I'm not flaming it. I just don't. There's no logic to me, right? I don't see how you're winning the tournament when the meta is built around speed and map control and going high ground at the 35-minute mark. I don't know. I just like don't know how you end up there. It's so bizarre. So my theory of China doing poorly this event, that was another one of my predictions, if you remember. I feel like that was pretty spot on.
They
considering
did do
this is
very
China's
poorly.
worst TI showing in the history of TIs.
Yes.
So got him. Fuck you, Jack, for killing another region. First he killed NA, then he moves to China and he kills China. If Jack goes to your region, watch out, boys. That's all I'm saying. If Jack heads up a European team, Dota might die, honestly. It might be the end. I'm switching to Deadlock. That's all I know. If Jack joins the European squad.
Well, the moving forward, I guess we had Falcons. I feel like Falcons did kind of do what they were supposed to do at this event. Just considering
not according to them.
Well, not according to them, sure, but considering their recent performances, I mean, they made it to top 4, but you know, maybe they should have beat Tundra and been top 3 or whatever, but it did not seem like they were able to keep up with the pace that Gambit Gladiators and Liquid, and frankly, like, you know, maybe even Cloud9 on a better day could have been able to play against them, but didn't happen there. They got top 4. So we ended up doing the lower bracket finals. You and I got chosen for the last day, first series, Gaimin Gladiators versus Tundra, and we got the only series that went to a game 3 in the entire weekend. The only series at TI main event that the losing team actually took a game, which is pretty crazy. And it was a good series, I would say. Game 1 and 2 were, you know, kind of one-sided, but we got a really close game 3, 69-minute game, which I don't know if that was the longest game of the tournament, but I'm sure it was close. But and it came down to the wire. Ultimately, Gaimin Gladiators did manage to win. It did feel like some of those late game team fights were too much for Tundra, but Tundra just definitely put up a good showing, and I would have been interested to see what Tundra could have done against Liquid, though ultimately I feel like both of those teams were kind of screwed by the fact that they played a 69-minute game 3 going into TI finals against a team that was looking very dominant.
Yeah, I don't think Tundra's winning that BO5, but would have they done better if all things are even? They didn't play a long series. If they had time to prepare for Liquid, would have they had a better matchup than Gaimin? It's an interesting question. I don't know if we'll ever know the answer to it. My gut says they don't actually do better. I think they still get 3-0'd. But I think in practice, there's maybe more likelihood of variance, I guess. Like there's more series where it's a 3-1 or even 3-2 than Gaimin is. Like I think Gaimin either beats Liquid 3-0 or they get 3-0'd. And it's kind of it. Like they either go in and they figure out that draft game 1 and then it's over, or they don't. I think Tundra, there's more room for variance. That's my kind of read on that. Just because they have weirder players. Like this Pure guy is super weird. This Thompson guy is super weird. Their supports were just balling out of control. They clearly understood the support meta really well. So they had a lot going for them. Now, the problem is they're a slower team than Gaimin. That's why I think the likelihood of maybe them winning that series is lower, because I just don't know if they can hold off and win a lot of those ultra lates, but the games might have been more hype. They might have been better games for the viewer.
Yeah,
so you can blame Gaimin for ruining another final for sure.
that is true. They now really have a history of 3-0s one way or another. So whether it's them beating Liquid or them losing to Spirit or them now losing to Liquid, they may be just a team that either has it figured out. And does that mean, do you think that they can't adjust mid-series as well as other teams? Or they're just like... Yeah, Gaimin. Or do they just
I don't
have
think Gaimin
such a
adjusts at all.
Playstyle? Okay.
I think that's their weakness. They can't adjust. There's no adjustment they can make. Like the roster and how they play and how it's built and the player, you can't adjust anything. There's no room for adjustment. They're either going to beat you or they're not. That's it. It's just most of the time they beat you because they're really fucking good and they're a good team and they have really good players and they know how to execute their idea. But they can't adjust anything. Like they just can't.
Why not? Why are they incapable of adjusting? Is it a history of too much success? Is it just the players that they have are too rigid?
So I've thought about this. Like, what is Gaimin's weakness, if they have one? And why is it that sometimes their view would be they haven't. So basically, they haven't struggled. This team has won everything except TI, and they've gotten second at TI 2 years in a row. So if you look at it on paper, one of the best teams in Dota history, that's it. Like, that should be your conclusion. One of the best teams in Dota history. But obviously, they're not satisfied. They're probably gonna change the roster because they got second at TI twice, and that stings.
Yeah.
But they won EWC. They've won 4 majors or whatever. Like, this team's balling. They're one of the best teams in the world. But when it comes down to the TI finals, they get clutched on a bit. And I think that one weakness, if you can point to it, is the adjustability / what some would term. I hate using this term. I don't want to use it. I know Quinn watches this podcast. I use it very, very lightly here. Is like star power, right?
Okay.
You're laughing because you know what I'm saying. Like, TI winning teams generally have that player that is considered a star power player that you can rally behind in terms of confidence and generally gives you the adjustability because he's just the best player. He has potential to be the best player in the world and the best player at the tournament, and therefore he can do a lot of different things. It's generally one of the factors of a best player in the world. When you look at history of Dota, a lot of TI winning teams have this. Sumail, Miracle, Nisha,
Yatoro for TI
Yatoro.
10 and 12.
Yeah, Yatoro collapsed. They're like kind of a hybrid version.
Mm.
But I consider it Yatoro, right? He played 15 different carries or whatever.
Well, what TI 11? I want to hear. Who was Tundra's?
TI 11?
Yeah, who was Tundra's star power?
That one is actually interesting because I think they are the biggest exception to this rule.
Okay.
But I think you could argue like 33 falls into that category a bit. They basically have like 3 or 4 players that fall into it in different areas, so they like combine into one, which is kind of similar to Gaimin. And my argument here is not that Gaimin can't win a TI. They obviously can win a TI. They're more than capable of winning huge tournaments. But sometimes this factor gives you an adjustability down the stretch. Now, I think Tundra would have had the same issue if it came down to it. If Tundra had faced a team like Liquid in the finals that had the meta super figured out and was super good for them, they didn't face that. They faced Secret, who kind of they didn't struggle, but they barely got there through some close series.
They ran
the
out
meta
of gas.
was
I think it was very clear they were a team that just was limping to the finish line by the end of it. Probably the same. And Liquid probably would have been similar, right?
Yeah, and the meta was not those teams' metas. It was Tundra's meta, right?
Yeah.
So there's a big difference there. So Tundra did not need to adjust. Tundra just played what they did. Actually, very similar to Gaimin. I don't think Tundra could have adjusted as well. Maybe better than Gaimin, but not by much. But they just did their thing, and nobody beat it. So they won. That's it. Like, that's what happens. Gaimin, if you look at these last 2 TIs, Gaimin Gladiators would have won the last 2 TIs if there wasn't a team capable of doing better in whatever meta was at TI. Right? It's that simple. Like, if Spirit or Liquid or one or 2 other teams that were better in the meta didn't exist, they would have just won. That was EWC. Right? When there isn't some like crazy team that has the meta super in their favor, Gaimin just wins. Because they just do their thing, and the onus is on you to beat them. And generally, you're not going to unless you have some super good shit figured out. So Tundra's in that same boat. But I do think Tundra had a lot of very unique players. I think 33 is a very unique player, and that guy exerts a lot of in-game pressure on you regardless. Like, this guy always finds farm. He's always on an obnoxious hero. He rarely throws. He rarely fucks up. So, like, this guy's a 2-time TI winner. You can consider him a star player. I think it's foolish not to. But they obviously had other really good players, right? Soxa's just clearly a fucking beast. 9 was on some shit at that event. Skeeter's like one of the most active European carries, especially for a time when they weren't as active. So he was ahead of the meta.
Yep.
So, Snake King is the king for a reason. So whatever. But anyway, back to my point is, I don't think Gaimin has that. Like, Gaimin doesn't have a Miracle or Sumail or Nisha, this guy where they're like, this guy is the best player in the world. You could argue with Quinn. I talk to a lot of people. People tell me Quinn's the best player in the world. I've heard from a lot of people, like, if I were to build a team and pick a player to do it, I would take Quinn. I have, like, my brain is biased because I just see Quinn as the old teammate I have. It's actually very hard for me to see him as, like, a 4-time major winner, EWC champion. Like, I don't see it because I just see Quinn.
You just see him as the good old NA goober
that
he's
I do.
always been. Yeah.
Like, I don't see him as Miracle or something. I never will. It's just my bias.
He just
so
doesn't
I
have
put that aside.
That aura to you. Yeah,
Exactly.
I get that.
But from a gameplay standpoint, I can understand that argument. The guy's really fucking good. He brings a lot to your team. He's a shot caller. He's always improving, always learning, pushes your team to learn and improve. Insanely valuable player. One of the most valuable players in the world. I think it's been proven at this point. But Quinn also likes to play the game how he wants to play the game. It's more rigid. It's more fixed. It's not as flexible. He doesn't have the same skill sets Anisha has. Doesn't make him a worse player. It just makes him a different player. And a lot of what he brought to Gaimin is why they won so much and why that team is so successful. Do not doubt that. And what Nisha brought to Liquid is why they're so successful, right? And I think you'd have a hard time picking between them. I think even like I talked to Blitz. I remember talking to Blitz shortly at TI and like, who are the top 3 players in the world you would build around? And I think I said like Nisha, Yatoro +1, and the +1 I think is, Quinn is in there. You could maybe argue like Collapse. You could maybe argue 33 or Thompson, right? Pure, whatever. So I think at that TI it was like, I know I said Yatoro, but I'm saying at deep into that event it was probably Pure, Nisha +1. I think were the standout players of that event.
Yep.
And I think Quinn said, or Blitz said, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he had Quinn I think in there as like his top 3. Probably because they play against him a lot, and he's lost to him a lot. He's like, This guy's really fucking good.
Yeah.
But I think there's a valid argument. So if there's a star player on Gaimin, it probably is Quinn to a degree. But the way he plays is a lot more rigid and structured. Right? He wants to play off the mid lane domination into the snowball, into the combining with supports, killing around the map, taking over map control, and you just get routed by the 25 minutes. And Gaimin plays so well around this idea that they beat most teams, and it's really hard to combat if you don't know what you're doing. But it's very inflexible. And I think that team has run up against that in some of these finals where they play against teams with people like Nisha and Yatoro who can adjust really well and play a lot of styles and kind of dunk on you, just outskill you with just raw star power. And it feels bad to lose to that because it's just like, you can't, like, what are you supposed to fucking do against it? It just feels like you're outclassed in a way. So maybe I'm speaking for them a bit, but I think that's the weakness they run up against. Would not be surprised for them to make roster changes. In fact, I think they are. And I don't know who they're really going to get. I don't think it's going to really fix any of the issues. I don't think they really even have issues to fix. That's the weird part. So I don't know. Maybe just something new to re-inspire people, motivate people, But yeah, I think it's an interesting debate of whether you actually want star power, that allure, because it's perception. It's purely perception. But how valuable is that? Obviously was valuable for Liquid because they all believe in this Nisha guy.
Yeah. I think this kind of touches on a topic that we have talked about before, but you said you don't think they have any issues to fix per se. Do you think that's because you just can't in this era of Dota be a more dominant team? Because like ultimately the patches come in, the meta fluctuates and stuff, and like ultimately you just can't be the best team all the time, all year round. You can't win every single tournament.
I mean, who is the best team in Dota for the last 2 years?
I mean, you either say Spirit or Gaimin, right?
It's Gaimin.
Spirit clutched up the bigger tournaments, but Gaimin was more consistent.
On, dude. It's not fucking close. It's actually not close. I'm the biggest Spirit fanboy, but like it's honestly not fucking close. And that is absurd. I think that's absurd because Spirit in the last 2 years have won a TI, one Riyadh,
yeah,
and one other big lane, right? I forget what it was. It was something, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Liquid have won TI, gotten second at a bunch of majors, at 3 of those majors,
yeah,
and got a second at EWC. And I still think Gaimin has been the best team in the last 2 years. Like, they won 3 majors, 1 EWC, and won like 4 or 5 other lands. And they got second at TI twice, right? Where was Spirit this TI? Nowhere. Where was Liquid last TI? Still solid, but not close. So, like, I think they've been the best team. I don't think it's been that close, to be honest. I think Liquid's close, the closest, but it's not. Liquid had some really rough patches. Now, Gaimin also had some rough patches, but, like, they come back and they come back strong. I think winning EWC is pretty big. So, like, to sit here and be like, this team has issues, it's just fucking absurd to me. Like, I know every team has issues. You always have some little beefs, and some player doesn't work as hard, and, like, you lose a bunch of scrims, you get frustrated, you feel like people aren't trying, and look, I've been there, I know all that shit. I'm sure they have issues. I'm sure Duracio's like Yawar, and he's like this scrim goon and all this shit. But at the end of the day, like, the team has won more than any other team in the last 2 years. It's not close. So, like, my point is, what are you trying to achieve, you know? Like, how much room do you have between you and the ceiling in a game that's that is kind of determined a little bit by luck, a little bit by metas and patches, a little bit by player variation? Like, there's only so much you can do. I feel like they're at the top pretty much, and you're only looking for extremely marginal gains, and to find those very marginal games in trading out players almost never fucking happens.
Okay, so it sounds like you are very pessimistic of Gaimin Gladiators' future. We'll talk about roster moves in a second. I want to finish up TI, because you did talk about draft for the TI finals. When you talk about Gaimin Gladiators' style, I think we saw that from their heroes. They pretty much had like the same heroes they played throughout the event. One little wrinkle is that in game 1 they pulled out the Riki mid for Quinn, something that was like talked about behind the scenes and seen in pubs and all these sorts of things is like a potentially really strong hero, and that just really did not come to fruition at all at TI. That hero, I think it showed up once or twice before this, but it didn't look that good, and then it showed up in this game 1, and you know, he had I think the right matchup too. Like, he had Riki versus Puck, and it still didn't work for them. And then everything else, I think, was just like stock standard Gaimin Gladiators from my perspective, anyway.
Yeah. They gave him Furion 3 times. They got Furion 3 times. Like, hero's really good when you're playing well.
How does that work? How, like, looking at the bans, you're a drafter. How did they end up giving Furion 3 times in a row?
Let me bring up the bans here.
So, like, game 1, they banned Naga Siren, Sand King, Wind Ranger, Doom.
Yep. All pretty reasonable bans. I think game 1 is like whatever, because you're going to go into game 1, you're going to have some idea of, like, you know, we're the better team. Each team's going to think that. And so you're going to go in trying to play your style, and you're almost not as worried about what the other team plays in a way, because you're just like, we're going to get our heroes, and we've been winning with them, so, like, fuck you, you know? So, yeah. Like, I honestly almost never look at game 1 in a BO5 in terms of the bans, because it's kind of whatever. Like, you can go for some crazy thing, or you can identify immediately what you need to ban, but you don't always know. Like, I don't think banning Fury on game 1 here is that reasonable. I don't think it was as scary until after this game 1 happens.
Sure. So they
and
go
all
into
these
game
bans
2.
are big bans.
So they go into game 2 then. We talk about game 2. Like, they banned away the Visage was, like, one of their additions, right? Because they, 33, really owned that game 1. He went 9-1-12. He's been rocking this Visage. It's been a dangerous hero to give Team Liquid the entire time. So they add the Visage into their ban list. They're also have less bans going into game 2, so more likely that they have to give up something. They also banned the 33 Doom. They choose to first pick Naga Siren over grabbing the Fury on themselves. Maybe it's something that, again, like Quinn and Duracio just didn't really feel comfortable playing on the 1 and 2 the way we saw Liquid end up playing it. But they choose to take the Naga Siren, which was a super banned hero in this event. So obviously high priority on it.
So I think in retrospect, I mean, all these things are like in hindsight, right? Like, we can sit here and analyze these drafts, but it doesn't mean that what they did is wrong, because it's all hindsighty, and like, hindsight is always way easier than when you're in the fucking moment at a TI trying to make this shit, you know?
Yeah.
And then, like, obviously any of these games can go a different direction based on execution. Like, I think Gaimin could win any of these games based on execution. So the draft analysis is kind of irrelevant in a way, but it is fun to talk about. I think there is a road where you don't ban this Wind Ranger from first pick, because otherwise you're banning it from first and second, and that becomes kind of annoying. Like, you also know they have to ban Lone Druid. Liquid has to ban Lone Druid from both sides, and probably Brood. So, like, you know that their two bans are forced from both sides, and in theory you can get the trade you want, depending on what you want. I would rather ban Furion than Wind Ranger here. Because one, I think if they leave Naga and you take Naga, Naga's way better against Wind Ranger than Furion. And I think Liquid leaving Naga is like pretty smart, honestly, because if they get Furion, I think they're really happy versus Naga, and they might have had something else up their sleeve, but I think their idea of we're just going to ball and push you is pretty good against Naga. Like, Naga doesn't do any damage, and she's not that good at the one getting pushed down in a way. Like, it's really dependent on the lineups, but I think this hero is kind of bad against Furion, because Furion's just too fast. Like, he just gets his 4th or 5th slot by 30 minutes, and he just goes base.
Yeah.
And, like, Naga sleeping Furion is entirely fucking irrelevant, and the Furion deals with the wave pressure. Like, he shoves all 3 lanes. So Naga just pushes lanes back into Furion, he pushes them in, and then he goes high ground, and he's just a right clicker. So, like, sleep doesn't do anything to this hero. Where, like, Wind Ranger, if that hero whirlwinds or BKBs and you sleep, it's pretty fucking big. It can just, like, ruin the whole team fight for her. So I feel like the Wind Ranger's just not as scary here. Like, I don't think it's as scary a hero for Liquid as the Furion is, especially if you have 2 more bans from first pick. You can ban the damage buffers. Like, they take the Wind Ranger if you don't want to pick it. You can ban the Tusk, you can ban the Mirana, whatever. I think you're happier in this situation. You have more time to play with. You can push them down. I think just giving Furion here is, like, it's scary because there's just not a lot. The other route is you can pick Monkey King. I think Monkey King is the hero that also owns this Furion, but it's like Gaimin were just not a monkey team, kind of. Like, Quinn plays it, but their side laners don't really play it. Not that you're going to play it in the off lane, but, like, Tofu doesn't really play it that much. He wasn't playing this event, and I don't know if Dyrachyo can play it, but would have they? I don't know. But I think Monkey King is also good for Furion. And your other one is Broodmother. I think can be quite good versus that hero, but you're never getting Brood in this series. So
yeah, that was permaban. It was like first ban every single time by Liquid. So
I mean, you have to assume that the Brood Lone Druid are getting permaban because they're way too good against Liquid heroes and they're way too broken. And it's also something that makes this Furion better.
Yeah,
because you can't push the Furion down faster. That's another reason I think Liquid banned this Alk. Like, Alk can have pretty strong timings versus Furion because he can come online equally as fast and ball up and push you, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, which is I think what Liquid were worried about. And they banned all 3 of these push heroes that were the best for Gaimin, and they took Furion every time. And Gaimin are, like, pressured to ban this Naga because their Naga's not as good. They're pressured to ban this Doom, even though Gaimin doesn't really play the Doom. So, like, their trade is kind of this Furion Wind Ranger Monkey King trade, you know? Like, Liquid banned this monkey every time, but Gaimin never took it. Yeah. So it's just kind of like a weird situation for them. And I actually think the Game 3 draft is the closest. I think
but they had to ban, they had to add in Tusk as one of their bans because they got Shadow Demon Tusked as a support duo in both Game 1 and Game 2, and it looked really good.
Well, the thing about the Tusk is it's because they decided they wanted Wind Ranger, and if you want Wind Ranger, you have to ban the fucking Tusk. But I also think this was a bad ban because they're second pick. So, like, if you don't ban Tusk, Liquid have to first pick it. So if Liquid first picks Tuskar, I feel like you have to be able to live with that because then you don't have to take Wind Ranger. You can take, like, something else. You can take the Furion. You can take something you traded out in that first phase. Mirana, for example, I think is okay. Whatever. The monkey, Shadow Demon, you know. And if they pick the Furion and you take the Wind Ranger, now you have the Tusk threat on, like, the out of phase. So they have to ban it, or you get Tusk Wind Ranger, which I think you should be happy with. And then the Wind Ranger doesn't have to play against Tusk. You just don't want to end up in a situation where you play Wind Ranger into Tusk, because I think it's one of the worst support matchups in the game, maybe the worst for the hero. Snowball decimates your Whirlwind. He has BKB piercing stun. Shards can, like, block off the Wind Ranger trying to run it. It's just fucking miserable. I think that's what they were worried about. So they're like, we'll ban it for later. They also lost to it twice. but I think it doesn't end up really working out because then like you take Marcy out of phase, which is a hero they'd had success with, but that could just be Tuskar, and I think you're better off. And then you have another ban. And then that other ban is like pretty valuable because that other ban can be the puck that you don't have to worry about second phase with kind of a lack of hard stun. So it gets kind of weird. Yeah. But I think this game 3 draft is very close. I actually like Gaimin's draft in this game 3, like maybe by a slight margin over Liquid's. I think this Pango pick is really strong. I think they just didn't execute this game at all, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
I think from a theory standpoint,
it's their sixth game of the day, and they're down 0-2.
They just played really bad in this game.
Yeah.
I do think, like, again, it's a Furion thing. Like, if Liquid execute to the highest degree in this game with, like, Clock, Dark Willow, Furion just running around the map, they win because it's just, like, too fast. But at that point, you have to believe that you can execute well. And I think if Gaimin execute this game well, like, this Pango can go ham. It's a really good Underlord game with Crimson and everything, blocks a lot of damage. You just have to find a way to kill this puck, like, once or twice, and you're pretty chilling in this game. You have Marcy damage buff for Whirlwind Wind Ranger that's going to, like, eat through this lineup later on. But the fact you give Liquid Furion and puck, it's like a little scary, you know? So it's a little dicey.
It definitely goes to show that Liquid put themselves in a position by the end of this tournament that they had too many threats, right?
Yep.
You had to take away 33, some of 33's heroes. You had to be aware of Nisha's puck and his Storm Spirit were both really good at this event. Very scary. Their Shadow Demon Tusk support combo was super deadly. And then there's still some, random meta heroes that you would have to worry about. So Liquid definitely, they came into that final, as you said, looking like the team that was taking advantage of the meta the most. They felt the most comfortable. They were also playing very well. I know that was something that Blitz said. He basically said before the finals that there was this pressure. I think even before the finals, there was this pressure of like, if they don't win this tournament, then they can never win a tournament because they felt like they were so well positioned meta-wise, and they were playing very well, right? Their players were operating very well. Everybody was locked in. So, there was that pressure of just like, if you can't win this, you'll never win an event ever. Fortunately for them, they did manage to do that. They got their 3-0 over Gaimin Gladiators, which was a nice bit of revenge. Not great for the viewers, but at least a bit poetic. And they did finally manage to get a first place. Honestly, ESB was lacking a lot of teams, so this is really their first tier 1 first place, and it happens to be the most important tournament of the year in TI. So nice little storybook finish. I feel like in some ways, feel like a lot of people were pretty happy about it.
Yeah, congrats to them. They were the best team by far.
Yeah.
Really impressive run. 0 games dropped, clean drafts throughout, clear understanding of the meta, super good understanding of how to utilize all their players. TI championship caliber team for sure.
I saw a lot of
and fun to watch.
A lot of community talk about what changed about this Liquid, what got them to first place. Do you feel like they actually changed that much, or do you feel like this was going to happen eventually, sort of thing, like a team that has proven to be this good? Eventually there is going to be them just hitting a groove, or the meta being favorable to them, that eventually they're going to win a big tier 1 tournament.
Some of it's a numbers game. Like if you stick around long enough in Dota and you work, chances are you can win something at some point, as long as you're continuing to improve. But the honest answer is like, what changed? Well, these guys worked together for like 6 years,
Yeah.
It's not an overnight process. If you go back 6 or 7 years, or even longer, when the trio of these guys were together in Han and whatever, like think of how many Dota tournaments they played in, how many games they played, and how shit they were for a long time, which is the case with most of us. Like that is improvement. They've improved since then. And it's not always visible. A lot of times you have latent buildup, or like you jump up and then you're stagnant for a while and then you improve slowly. So like, I think it clearly shows they've just gotten a lot better over time in all aspects of the game.
What about
better
this year? What about this roster compared to, let's say, last year's roster? 33 versus Zai.
I think this team was just more confident. Honestly, I think that's the biggest difference for me. Like they matured and they were more confident in their abilities and each other and the fact that they could win. And it showed. Like when they're on stage, when they're playing the game, when things go wrong, you look at player cams and stuff, you can see people's reactions or how much energy they have. And this team was just completely cool, calm, and collected, for lack of a better phrase. And you could see it. Like they're just there, they're playing, they know they're good. Whatever happens, happens. I think that's the biggest difference. If you go and look at them from previous years or whatever, it was always like some miracle run, you know? Like they're barely getting by the play-in. They're barely surviving this series.
Yeah.
Every series is like a liquid miracle, you know? And that can be powerful, but it can also be like this idea in your mind of, oh, like, did we deserve to win that series? We're barely skating by. How far can we go? You know, what's our limit? And this tournament, I think it was like, yo, we're just fucking good. We're capable of winning this. It's on you guys to beat us. And they just did their thing.
Do you think that so it just so happens that the two teams in the finals were also the oldest two teams? And I'm not talking about them being together for a long period of time, though that is also the case, but just like general age. Do you think that maturity is part of the reason why these teams ended up in the finals?
I think it helps. Like, the more you play, the more confident you get in what you're doing and why, and the better you're going to play on stage and in high pressure situations because you've been there before. It counts for a lot. It's hard to win TI without experienced players. Which is why I'm always impressed by these super young teams with miracle runs and stuff like Spirit or whatever. But yeah, I think it counts for a lot, especially over a year. You know, maybe you're not going to win like TI, but you'll win more lanes on average. You'll do better on average, and it shows in your gameplay. It's just more confidence. You know, like if I went and played now, I'm not saying I'd be good, but I would be more confident in a weird way of like, I know what I'm doing. And I'm either going to win or lose because I'm better or worse than my opponent. But I'm not like when I was 20 playing and I just didn't know what the fuck was going on. And like, you go in these games and you're like, I don't even know how I should know if I'm better or not. Like, I don't know how to evaluate it, or like, I don't know what I don't know. So at this point, these guys know this shit and it's just a matter of execution. And that brings a level of confidence. And I think it shows. So I think that will always count for a lot. And like people's time comes, like it's a time thing too. Like Dota's a game where it takes 10 years to win a TI for most people. Because if you just stick with it long enough, eventually you'll find the right team in the right circumstance and the right patch, and it'll click and you'll do really well. But that takes factors to align, and it takes time for those factors to align. Sometimes it happens really quick for certain people, but for most people it takes, 5 to 7 years on average or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's just another factor too. Like, takes a while for this stuff to align.
All right, well, wrap that part up. Congratulations to Liquid, and we can move on to the post-TI stuff. Actually, real quickly, we got a announcement at TI. We saw Kez, Bird Samurai. I don't think there's anything to say about it, just because we know nothing about the hero, so...
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be out on Act 4, which is probably out in 8 or 9 months from now. So look forward to that next year.
It does seem like the hero is tied to Act 4, but they also didn't seem to give a date on anything there, if I recall. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Post-TI, we already had roster rumors floating around. In fact, I think this is really interesting. This was the TI that roster changes. I think there are more roster changes that were already being made either before TI or before TI even started or before TI even ended. There were already roster moves that were known or being made. And so immediately post TI, there is a bunch of news about some rosters and a lot of rumors going around. So the biggest one.
So Austin, dispel the rumors for us. Let's get some hard info in there for all the viewers that want some juicy news.
We'll start with the hard confirmed ones. Team Spirit are breaking up. Is this like when your favorite boy band breaks up?
This is the worst TI I've ever experienced in my life, dude. My enemies in Liquid won, and my friends in Spirit disbanded. The worst timeline, truly. My boy Quinn lost again. No more titles for NA. Lost to Europeans. Dark times, brother. Dark times. Jack Chen last place.
Jack Chen.
Dark times.
Last place. As
Dark
predicted
times,
by Avery. Make it even worse, it's not just Spirit disbanding, but also it's Mira and Yatoro going on break. So they're not even going to be playing on a different roster, and it seems like we're going to see an entirely different team spirit as a result going into this next season. But part of it maybe talks about, you were talking about, Gaimin Gladiators and them having a potential roster change up, and asking the question, like, can you even get that much better? What's the likelihood? Well, it seems like Yotoro in his message talked about the fact that there was just like a bit of negative buildup that has occurred. I'm sure there was many positive things. I'm sure he loves his teammates and stuff, but they have been together for quite a long time, moved to a different country, have had to live together, boot camp together for a very long time. They've had big ups and some pretty notable downs now. They've won 2 TIs, but they've also had 2 TIs where they bombed out. And it seems like that has built up over time. So maybe that's something similar with Gaimin Gladiators as well.
Yeah, every team has its shelf life. I mean, no team plays forever. Dota is just too stressful a game, and there's too many stress factors for people to coexist for too long, honestly. That's the simple truth. Like, you're just going to get under people's skin. You're going to annoy people. Bad things are going to build up. You're going to start to resent things that you normally wouldn't in a normal environment, just because you have to stress each other out to perform better, to improve, to continually learn. And that's tough. It's like a very frustrating thing, especially when you're doing it with people that you like as friends and people. Like, you don't want to pressure them or stress them out, but you have to. So it gets weird. And it can get to a point where you lack motivation because it just doesn't feel new or inspiring. Like, it feels like you're doing the same thing over and over and over. And that can just be annoying for certain people more than others. And it can be very frustrating, and it can be uninspiring and demotivating. So a lot of times just bringing new people into a roster can be a source of motivation and get people back on like okay, this is new and different. I don't know what it looks like. We're going to play different. The games are going to feel different. And that just makes it more fun and interesting. It's not like a bad blood thing. I don't think those guys have any real bad blood with each other. I think it's, you just play with people for 4 or 5 years. It's like, you just want something new. You want something different. And to be more inspired and to feel better about the game.
And it does seem like that is going to be happening with a lot of these teams. And it actually makes this TI, post-TI shakeup more interesting than some of the recent ones because, Team Liquid, they change one player because they have to because somebody retires. Gambit Gladiators is the exact same. Bet Boom swaps out one player. Well, it seems like all those 3 rosters are all going to be changing in some degree. According to rumors, Gambit Gladiators has already confirmed that they are going to make a roster change. That roster change isn't out yet, but the rumor is that Duraccio is getting kicked. The way
what a rumor. Where'd that come from?
The way the rumor is quoted on the Dota 2, there is a shuffle thread you can go ahead and take a look at. I just thought it was really funny. His girlfriend allegedly responds to a Gaimin Gladiators post with a derogatory slur hinting at a possible kick. That is one of the weirdest ways that I've ever seen a roster shuffle rumor get thrown around.
Yeah, that's a doozy.
Anyway, the rumor is that Watson's going to replace him, but
yeah, I mean, it doesn't fucking matter who they get. I mean, they can get anybody, any carry player who's not on Liquid or, yeah, I mean, basically not Mickey, they're going to be able to potentially pull.
Yeah.
It's just who they want and who they think can fit. Will it fix their issues that don't exist? I don't know. Maybe it'll make the team environment more fun to play in. Obviously, Duraccio is a contentious player. I feel like we all understand and feel that. I've played with players like him. They win you tournaments as much as they feel like they lose you stuff. It can be hard to play with them for a long time because it's like very stressful, So I'm sure they probably just want something more stable if that is the switch that happens. I don't know. Be interesting to see what happens to that team. Like I said, a lot of teams just end up switching people eventually because they want something new and different and remotivating. So someone has to bite the bullet, even if it's not like a we hate you and you suck type thing. So I feel like Gaimin will probably switch him out for somebody. Watson makes sense. I don't know. I mean, who even else is there? TA 2000, I guess. But
Well, it seems like the Cloud9 and Tundra rosters may also be falling apart. So Pure potentially. Well, I would have considered him as one of the carries to pick up if I was anybody.
I don't think that guy's gonna do something of his own. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think Pure's the kind of guy to like go to a Gaimin. You know, he's the kind of guy he'll like go either back to Russia and make a CIS team, or he'll go to like, you know, some like Liga or something with Ramses and build from there. Or
you think
or
he's the guy you build
BB
a team around? He doesn't join a pre-existing
More
team.
so. The only team I'd say he would go is to BB if they kind of pseudo rebuild. Like if he goes back and BB kicks Nightfall or something for him, and then kind of rebuilds around like him, Toronto, Tokyo, save, and then maybe Miro plus either GPK or someone else to come in for GPK. I could see that kind of roster get built.
Yeah, and it does seem like the Betboon team has they have been full disbanded. That's the rumor anyway. So that's the one I'm happy.
They were disbanded
about.
Before the event. I mean, let's be real. I was saying that the whole fucking event, and there's no way that team was at the end of the rope. Listen, yeah. I know something about when a team is disbanded before a tournament. I know all the fucking signs. I'm not an expert in a lot, but I will claim I'm an expert in that.
What are the
My
signs?
read of that is 100,000%.
What are the signs?
It's just it's a feel thing, man. You can just see it in the players, how they look, how they're playing the game, how they're drafting. You know, it's like you just know, dude. You just fucking know.
Man, you are right there next to all the Reddit armchair psychologists. You can just make the soul read on what you see on screen, huh?
Yeah. Except I'm a ex-pro armchair psychologist, so I have like a slight 2% edge, you know?
Yeah. Okay. The most interesting roster shuffle of all is the fact that I said, you know, these teams that have existed together for a while, Team Liquid is apparently going to also have a roster shuffle despite winning TI.
That's right, Austin. They're going to add a fourth coach. Jirax is coming back.
You're talking about the Jirax at TI. Maybe he was talking to Blitz while he was there.
So what is it? The rumors 33's out?
Yeah, the rumor is that 33 is going to be out. And interesting enough, Tundra also they also announced that Ramses is going to be heading back to Liga as his loan ends. And I'm fairly certain that isn't just like you don't make that announcement unless you're actually changing that roster, right? So there is an offlane position that's open. We'll see how many other offlanes open up. But winning TI and changing your roster. If that happens, what do you think about that?
It's not the first time. So
yes.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Historically, it does not work out. But obviously, different circumstances.
I mean, they did get third place after that TI, so it didn't go the worst either.
Yeah, sure. I think Liquid's always going to be fine, honestly. Like, they can kind of do whatever. They have too much support staff, too stable and good of an org. All of the like logistical stuff is too well handled. They can always pull star players, right? It's just too well set up. Like, they're just never going to be bad. It's impossible. Will they win TI again next year, right? I don't know. That's a much more nuanced question. Is this move good? It's hard to say. I feel like a lot of this move is not around the player, but the person. Because I don't think Liquid have an issue with 33's play style anymore. You know, so like, well, it's either play style or personality. And if you win TI, it's rarely play style. I'll tell you that much. So it's got to be something personality wise, or 33 just doesn't. He wants to do something else. You know, that guy's a wild card of a person, right?
I mean, maybe he wants to be the 3-time and he wants to do it with 3 different rosters, right? Because winning this TI, he became a 2-time, but he was also the only person to do it with an entirely different roster, right? Team Spirit did it very similar once. TI8 was a repeat, or OG rather was a repeat. So, you know.
I mean, the rumor is he's going back to Tundra. So if he wants to do it with 3 different orgs, then that would be another org. I think he just wants to be the first 3-time. I don't think he cares about the org part.
Sure.
I would not be surprised to see him go back to Tundra as their offlaner, and then they try and like rebuild around that. I don't know if Pure is going to be there or not, but I think that like Thompson 33 Soxa/9 class. I mean, it's probably Soxa at this point.
Yeah, let's be real,
honest.
it's probably Soxa.
I feel like that trio is like, that's a pretty good core trio, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could probably fill in anybody around that and be pretty happy with that team. So I would not be surprised if that happens. Now, what's the difficulty between 33 and Liquid? I don't know. Only they know. I just know 33 can be, he's obviously a very opinionated player, and a lot of times those types of people have very strong personalities, and they can be hard to work with. Doesn't mean they're bad people or like it's all on them, but it's very dependent on the team environment.
Sure.
So it's probably something in that nature. Liquid obviously can choose from a lot of people as well. They probably have good options. So it's not like we get 33 or nothing.
Do they have good options, though? Because, one, offlaners have been in high demand, short supply for years at this point in time. And also, 33 was both he was both a drafter and he was also kind of a captain. I don't think those captain lines are clearly defined as they were in maybe previous Dota teams.
One big factor is, one, Blitz is like a draft guy.
Yep.
And two, they won TI. So their confidence is a bit better than it was before. A lot of the pressure's gone. The monkey's off the back. Right. It's like usually, and also Boxy's their biggest shot caller, like play decider in a way.
Yeah.
So I feel like they don't need someone who comes in to do exactly what 33 necessarily did for them, but replacing some of that would obviously be good for them. I don't know. They'll find somebody. I think there's a lot of offlaners that would happily play for that team.
The rumor I see on Reddit is Saberlight. Do you think that's I feel like that's a very different person than 33, or like player and personality, actually very different.
I don't think they would get Saberlight.
Okay.
They are going to want someone that is,
yeah, I mean, you say you can, they have lots of options, they can get anyone, so you name the player that they should get.
I think they want a carry player that leans more towards the carry / like greedier or decisive route. I think Saberlight is more of like a glue guy. Like he'll go in a team and he'll kind of play anything, and he'll do any kind of role. He can be sacrificial, he can be a little greedier, but he's kind of the offlaner you get to make your other two cores feel good in the game.
Do you think they needed a Mar 33?
Yes.
Who else? Who else fits that?
I think because Mickey is kind of your like adapter, right? Like Mickey kind of plays a wide variety of stuff, and he doesn't necessarily need a huge amount of farm priority, so you can get a bit greedier in your offlane. Like Nisha's similar. So I think 33 ended up being a good fit for them on the economic side of Dota 2, as long as they figured out the playstyle, which they did. So I think, yeah, like an ATF will obviously make them a very good team. Collapse would make them a good team. Though does he even speak English? I don't know.
Ace would be another one, right? Ace is very defined and a little bit greedier.
Oh yeah, Ace is very similar to 33. Like it would just be a very similar team. Very good for them too.
Sure. Very
good core player, stable, can play with a lot of farm, and plays the Zoo Heroes, which is really nice for that team.
Divide Llama. I'm just looking at other offlaners here. Like I think Gunner is another example of, he's kind of like a Saberlight, right? That is not a greedy kind of player. Guy.
Yeah. Miro would also be good for them. And I feel like that guy's a bit underrated. I think he could do really well in like a Western European team in the right environment. He just seems very humble, eager to learn, young, plays a wide variety of stuff, and can play all these Zoo Heroes and stuff, and generally doesn't like throw a game or something. Is he the best offlaner in the world right now? No, but like I think he has potential to be really good. I think that guy could actually be very interesting. But maybe he's not prestigious enough for like a TI winning team, I feel like they might want somebody who's like not going to come in and be the odd man out.
Yeah.
That can be a factor too, right?
Okay, well, let me just leverage that little talking point into our discussion about post-TI stocks and players to pick up, because this episode is sponsored by Gambit Finance, and we could talk about the players, post this TI, that, stocks are rising, who's falling. I mean, the obvious ones that are falling are the players who are not going to be playing. So Yatoro and Miro saying they're going to be taking a break. We'll see, how long that break is if they actually end up coming back. Thompson, another one who is rumored to be taking a break because the rumor is he needs to do his Finnish military service. So that I saw it's like that is potentially 6 months or 12 months. So he could, if he's going to be doing it soon, then, he could maybe be back in time for TI and hop onto one of these rosters that feels like they need to make a shake up in order to be good enough to win TI or win Riyadh. So maybe he'll be back in time by the end of the season, but he is potentially not going to be playing this year, which is pretty interesting. Saxa, I think, is another person who is very picky about where he ends up. He stood in for this roster. I would imagine if I'm Tundra, I'm trying really hard to keep him, given his performance, but we'll see whether or not he acquiesces to that, if he wants to be able to play with those guys, because he is notoriously a picky player about his teams. So those are the ones that stocks are maybe a bit questionable or falling in that regard. But anybody else that I didn't list on that?
I don't think so. I mean, you basically just have players retiring, so they're crashing, and you have, I guess it's like Liquid and Falcons at the top, which is kind of interesting. I guess Falcons, like, if you consider the two teams going into the next year that are going to be the most stable right off the bat, it might be those two.
Sure.
Because Gaimin's kind of a wild card, right? Like, maybe their roster switch-ups will work, maybe not. But Falcons are going to stick together. I think it's been pretty clear. Liquid's going to stick together outside of the one replacement, but they're still going to be good. So if you were to bet on teams right now who's going to be good for next year, those are pretty good bets, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe Gaimin is like a third.
I mean, really, do you think there's really that much of a difference? Let's say Gaimin keep all 4 and only kick Tarachio, and Liquid keep all 4 and only lose 33. Is there really that much of a difference in the core of those rosters and the one person that they're losing? Like I feel like 33 is perhaps more important to Liquid than Tarachio is to Gaimin Gladiators. Tarachio, I think his playstyle is very unique, and I think it fit Gaimin Gladiators very well. But maybe I could see a world where they shift to having a harder carry player that would fit very well for them.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I buy that. I still think people underrate how good of a fit Tarachio is for those other two core players. I don't know if that team functions with a slower carry. I really don't. Like, I'm sure they're going to be good, but will they be better? That's because that's all that matters. Even if they're good, they get like third every event and they're great. That's not what that team wants. So, like, the only question is, will they be better? I don't know. I think it's hard. It's hard to get marginal gains, but I think it's hard to do that when you're also changing your entire playstyle as a team. They get another aggressive carry, then all that's out the window. I think 33 is a better, he's a more valuable player than Tarachio, for sure. Is he more important to Liquid than Tarachio is to Gaimin, though? I don't know. For this TI, he was, obviously.
Yeah.
It really depends on who you replace these guys with, but I think people underestimate how good that Liquid core is at this point. Like, especially the support duo. I think that support duo has come a really long way. I think Boxy is just, he was the best 4 in the world at this event. It clearly showed, right?
Yeah.
I think Saxa was close, but he was just in a world of his own. So, like, that helps a long way. When your forward's that beastly and he's a shot caller and he understands the game at that level and he can set up plays on the map and tell you how to play and make stuff happen, then, like, it makes your 3 replacement go smoother.
Yeah. I think that's interesting that from like an outside view, that's the look at Boxy, because I remember like when they made their run at TI11 like 2 years ago, right? Like that team, like Matama Man said, like Boxy was one of the best players he's ever played with. I don't think he said that in an interview. I think it was privately, but he was like, this guy is like crazy good and he is incredibly important to the team. And it's
taken a while, but they have obviously proven that by being able to, one, win TI here, but also consistent second places, whereas before they had a miracle run, but they were not necessarily threatening grand finals appearances every single TI like they have done this year.
Yeah, there's certain Dota players you play with that, like, you play with them and you're just like, God damn. Like, that guy's fucking good.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I think for me, it's mostly been the shot callers. Because you can play with really good Dota players, but if you play with some guy and he's like a really good shot caller, you're just like, oh shit.
It's
like,
different,
this guy
right?
knows
like,
how to win. Yeah.
It's
just
different
knows how to
from
win
the silent, like, yeah, he's cooking, but he doesn't say shit in the game, right?
Yeah. It's just like, you're like, I want to play with this guy because he's just making calls. He knows how the game's going. He knows how to win the game. He knows how to set up team fights. He sets up ganks. You know, like this guy you're playing with, it's like, yo, go here, bait this guy. They're going to jump him. We take the fight. You go there, they jump him. You win the fight. You're just like, okay, this guy's just God or something, right? Like, yeah. Holy shit. I have a feeling that is the role box he fills on that team and why people speak so highly of him. I have almost no doubt. And I've encountered players like that in my time and played with them, and I've seen them on teams, and like, those are the guys that you build around. They are the linchpin to your success that you don't see as a viewer. So those guys are incredibly valuable. And I have no doubt that Boxy was maybe the most valuable player on that Liquid squad outside of like a Nisha that, you know, I mean, Nisha's Nisha for sure, but you don't win without these big shot callers, if that is actually the case.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal for sure.
Another player that honestly I was a bit surprised at the way he popped off at this event, but stocks definitely rose quite a bit for me, was Tundra's Whitemon. I think he really stood out this TI. I mean,
guy owned.
That guy absolutely destroyed. So I feel like he is one of the supports that stood out from this event for sure.
I forgot about that, but at some point halfway through the tournament, I was like, the two best fives in this event are Insania and Whitemon, and I don't think it's close. And I think again, we talked about like the patchman, everything was good for Liquid. I think the hero pool for Insania was super good. Like that guy historically he's not really like this, you know, melee support player or he's not gonna play like, you know,
outside of Treant. He is a big Treant player, but yeah.
I mean, it's not that he's bad at these. It's just like every player has their styles and stuff they're better at, and that guy excels at these like backline save support spellcaster type dudes. You know, Oracle, right, is what he's known for. And I feel like that was the five pool of this event, just to some degree. And he played like some clocks and stuff, and played him really well. He was just on this tournament for sure. But like, you know, the Shadow Demons, the Oracles, the Tinker, Treant stuff, like that's his bread and butter. It was probably very comfortable for him, the Enchantress. So I think he was on another level, but I think Whitemon was like, God damn, somebody scout this guy and get him on your team, because he was owning games. Like, he was the best spellcasting five of the event, and one of the best I've seen in a long time. Like, absolutely on point. Every team fight, the laning phases, the hero diversity, winning the lane, early games, late games, just all there. And everything I've heard about him is that he's a super chill, nicest guy, great teammate. So like, this guy's the best C player we've had in a long time. Absolutely, and it's not close.
Particularly from the support pool, right? Because a lot of C players have come in.
Oh, just in general, dude.
In
general.
I'm saying that a lot of the best C players that come out of C and have been taken to these other teams, a lot of times they've been core players, right? A lot of mids, as an example.
Yeah, a lot of mids.
Yeah.
I think it's like him, and then there's Abed. Like, to me, in the last 5 years, those are then the two best C players. You've had some bursts and stuff, like Makoto had his tournament, and I think Jabs has proven to be pretty solid. And you know, there's obviously good players, but those two to me have been the two that I'm like, I would get these on like a European squad and they would pop off. Somebody should be scouting that motherfucker. That's all I know. Like, if I'm building a team right now, I want that guy playing my five, because I'm not going to have any issues with him, and he is a world-class mechanical player at this point. Just a beast, dude. He's just in the right place at the right time every time.
Yeah.
That is invaluable.
Now, another player that we haven't mentioned, you know, obviously all these players that were on the top tier teams are probably in some degree high value looking at them post this TI. But another player who really stood out, I think, from this TI was No One. in particularly because he had back-to-back strong performances. He really kicked ass at Riyadh. He really kicked ass at this TI. And even if Cloud9, I don't know, I can't remember like his performance on the final series, on their elimination series, but even if Cloud9 did not really perform quite as well as they shown, you know, earlier on in the event, and maybe they choked at the towards the end of it, I think no one showed like this guy is back in full force, and I would 100% be looking to pick him up and put him on my team, right?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan. He's definitely at his redemption arc. My one thing with him is I am not sure where his ceiling is anymore. I don't know if we're seeing it. Like, I think he's a really valuable teammate and player at this point, and he knows a lot about the game. He's been around forever. I don't know how much of a shot caller he is. He's probably more now. People tend to age more into that. And I think he plays like everything mid. His hero pool is great. He lanes well. He makes moves. He's active. I just wonder where his ceiling is, because I feel like in the modern age of Dota, if your mid ceiling isn't like really fucking high, these days of like the guy who is just kind of the rock from mid, I feel are over. Like these older style like S4 mids, you know, who's playing like Bat Rider, Brewmaster, making calls and running around the map. That's almost what I get out of no one. Like he's gonna go play Earth Spirit mid or Invoker and run around and make plays and be like the solid dude and set your game up well, but he's not the like Nisha or Miracle type mid.
Sure, but there's only so many Nishas and Miracles, right?
Of course.
There's only like,
so you could definitely build a winning roster
that
around
could have a Nisha or a Miracle, you know?
For sure. So you can build a roster around him. I think his value is very dependent on how you build the roster and construct it, and then he's really valuable as a player. But you can't. I don't think you could just like plug him into any team and have it work out for him.
Okay.
Or have him look good. I think there's potential he could look really bad on like a team that's not constructed well for him.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool to see what he does.
Any other players you can that we haven't talked about that you think had a fantastic TI and stood out for you outside of the stood out further among the field than others?
I think Copy had a pretty good tournament.
He did.
Would not be surprised to see that guy get poached, or for Nouns to maybe rebuild a bit around Yuma Copy. But I think that guy's good. I think yeah, maybe that's it. I'm pretty stingy when it comes to. I mean, my boy Jin Q and DY. I think they're still the best support duo out of China, but like, what fucking team are these guys going to end up? What is China going to look like next year?
I mean,
I have no fucking
if they
clue.
end up on a team that doesn't have a Faceless Void, Shadow Fiend, Lycan core is their cores, then maybe we'll see them have more chance to pop off in, you know, top 8 playoff games rather than where they ended up.
I don't know, man. China's in such a weird place. I think they're going to shuffle again, but like, there's no new blood. And they can't really import players except out of C. So it's just like, what do? I don't know. You have to rebuild a championship team. It's like all these orgs just fight over trying to build the champion team out of the same like pool of 15 dudes, but none of them ever get it. They all get like a third of it. It's so stupid. It's like a fucking Dune book or something. Like you just have these houses fighting over the same stupid like pile of resources, and all of them get like a third of it, and they all end up destroying it. It's just like, somebody just concede and pass the torch and then have an actual championship team, you know? It's so weird to me. But I hope that support duo sticks together. I think they're really good together, and I think they're still the best support duo in China. And I think they still have a huge amount of potential. So,
you know what?
I think DY was another great 5 at TI, actually. I think he played really well, honestly. If you look at a lot of XG's games, like he really owned. And their results, they got like top 6. It's good, but I think that guy deserved the top 4 for sure.
I think that will be, if you guys at home could help me out and write in the comments for next week, the question to be, if you were a Dota 2 team manager, what Chinese players would you put together for a Chinese team we'll ask that question next week for Avery, since he seems to think that all these pieces are broken apart. We'll see.
I mean, I'll tell you who it is.
No.
I know
That's
who it
the
is,
question next
motherfucker.
week. That's
No,
the
let me.
question
I'll
next
tell
week.
you who it is.
No.
DY,
Cut it off
Jin
right
Q,
here.
XXS. My boy Somnus, bring this motherfucker back onto an act. I'm sorry,
you can't
XM, but
do
my
that. You
boy
can't.
Somnus, he wants to play. He wants to play. He owned the TI quals, destroyed the TI quals, owned them. Bring that motherfucker back. I don't care who the carry is. My boy Somnus, he'll play
not
1
gonna
and
say
2.
Ame. You're not gonna say Ame.
Dude, I'm iffy on. I mean, I think I don't know. I'm iffy on Ame, dude. I don't know if his heart's in it anymore. You know, that's all I'm gonna say.
All right. Well,
That's all I'm gonna
either
say.
way, we're going to play the game of Dota 2 Team Manager, just like there's like that game Football Manager.
Bring my boy Hal back. I want Hal on that. Give me the gyro god, okay? We're bringing Hal back out of retirement. Let's fucking go. That's a goddamn roster.
I mean, listen. All I'm saying is that like aggressive. You know, his idea of rotating with you telling me that man wouldn't love going through some gates. He would love just being like, I'm ditching my lane at level 5. Fuck this. I'm gonna go gank the enemy carry. Like that man would be all over some gate action. Anyway, thank you for watching another episode of Not For Broadcast. Again, if you guys want to check out Gambit.Finance, go do so. And we'll see you guys next week with probably a whole lot of roster shuffle news. We'll talk about that. Goodbye.